So this is going to be kind of informal. Like I'm not going to say like, this is what I'm going to talk about. I want this to be what you all want. So I'm just going to start with a quick overview about knowledge enrichment, and then we can dive more into the technical details and what you are all looking for. So this presentation is available on Highspot. So don't worry about needing to remember anything. It's there for you. It actually has been uploaded to the new Highspot very recently. So don't worry about that. So knowledge enrichment is a set of SaaS-based APIs. It's meant for developers to be able to actually build their applications with. It comes with two primary features. So that's data curation and context enrichment. So knowledge enrichment as a whole is to be able to get your data ready for AI systems and then enriching that data for additional context. So data curation is that piece that is actually centered around highlighting document filters, where I had to say document filters as soon as Levi stepped on. It's centered around document filters where we're actually extracting all of the content from unstructured data. So like your PDFs, your Word files, your WordPerfect file from 1992. We're extracting that in the same format that it lives within the document. So we're not OCRing it. We're not throwing it through LLMs. We're extracting that content and keeping its structure so we can actually keep that author's intent. And then we get to the context enrichment piece, where we're taking that structured file and we're enriching that with new metadata. So this is the area where a lot kind of mix it with IDP. So IDP focuses on those specific use cases where you're looking at one document, whether like this an invoice, a purchase order, anything like that, and you're extracting key items from that file that lives directly in that file. The difference between that and context enrichment is we're generating new metadata that may not actually live in that document. So we're inferring things about it. And we're not only using that one document, we're using multiple documents that are related to that to infer that new metadata. Okay, so I spoke a lot in a short period of time. Are there questions?
Yes. The accuracy of the analysis of the documents, for example, invoices, is the same of an IDP product, less, more?
So it depends on what your use case is. So if you're looking to just categorize or extract like an invoice number or a purchase order number, what like things like that, and it's a scanned document, IDP is going to be better because we're not focused on that specific use case. But also on the back end of IDP, they're actually going to be using knowledge enrichment for some of their functionality. And then we're actually going to get to that point where it may make sense for us to incorporate that image-based technology that IDP uses into knowledge enrichment. So at this exact moment, IDP is better for those single document use cases where you want to extract a specific field that you already know about. But where you want to look at more than one document, you want to infer things about that document, we are better at.
Okay.
And IDP also is that full solution. You're using IDP when you want an ingestion solution to put your content somewhere. Knowledge enrichment is that API where you can build a product with.
Okay.
So I know you had a lot of questions, Marco, that you sent over to me. I can just walk through those.
Yeah.
All right, so let me step through this a little bit more just to show a little bit of what it does. So this right here is that data curation piece of knowledge enrichment. So we're taking an invoice, doesn't matter what format it is, and we're actually structuring that into a markdown format. So the reason for markdown is that we're able to keep that structure and the context, the actual author's intent behind this file. Now, if you OCR this, you're losing that structure of the document. And markdown also is very lightweight, so it's actually cutting down on your processing costs. And actually something that I don't have on this slide yet, but is a key differentiator for what we're doing here, is we're keeping positional data of the information on the document. So when in an AI system, what you typically do when you're feeding information to the LLM is you're creating what is called a chunk. So you need to chunk the document to be able to feed it to the LLM in smaller pieces. When you do this, you're actually losing a lot of information. So you don't know later on in the system when you want to retrieve that chunk, you don't know where it lives within the document. So using discovery, for example, when you get an answer back and it shows you that document where that answer came from, it doesn't actually know where it's coming from. It knows the document, but it doesn't know where that chunk that has that information is actually on that document. So what we enable is being able to know where that chunk came from. So we actually have positional information on every item within this document. So if your answer is directly referencing the address on this invoice, we'll be able to take you directly to where that address is in the document. So that's actually something Discovery will be enabling later this year.
And is that stored as like a text rendition somewhere in the repo, or is that not how that information is stored about that document?
So that is not a text rendition. So in an AI system, you have what's called a vector database. Now, this vector database contains embeddings. Now, in those embeddings, they're made from the chunks of the document. And that positional information actually lives, we actually have it living in the chunk. So when we create the embeddings, we're creating that with the positional information already on the chunk.
Got it. Thank you.
I have a question for us real quick, only because I'm seeing a table there. Is there a limit to file types that we can put in knowledge enrichment? Specifically, like I'm sure customers, once they see this example, are going to want to pump Excel tables in there. Is that doable at this time?
I kind of want Levi to answer that because it's all because of document filters. So
is it the over 600 file types? Is that what I'm supposed to say?
Absolutely. So like document filters supporting over 600 different file types, data curation also supports over 600 different file types. So everything that document filter supports, as well as images. So we do OCR for anything image-based, but then we also support audio video. So we will transcribe any audio video that is sent over to us. So to directly answer the question, yes, Excel is supported.
Awesome, thank you.
And is this curation and enrichment, would you say that this is a differentiator for us? When we get the question, well, our ERP has AI. Is Doc Filter's special sauce to this that's providing this?
Yes, so that is one of the key differentiators. Like what the file support that we have with document filters is unlike any of the competitors. A lot of them will say this, they support a lot more, But they do that because they're OCRing those documents. And when you do that, you just get bad results. That's actually what we were doing previously with discovery. Like we were converting documents from their source file type. When you do that, you lose information. And that's what a lot of these competitors currently do. And what they do is actually more expensive as well. Because when you're converting and you're OCRing, that takes a lot more processing power than just extracting that content directly. All right, so this here is showing context enrichment. So basically what we're doing here is we're able to just take a document, whether that's a text-based document or an image, and we're able to look at that and generate new metadata about it. So I actually have a live demo that I could show you, show this exact use case where you have a image of a damaged vehicle, and you're able to identify the make, the model, the damage, the type of damage, what part is damaged, how severe it is. And the full use case for this is for around insurance claims. So once when someone actually uploads this image, you can have it automatically processed and identify all of these aspects of this image. Now that's all great. That's only one piece of it. What you can also do is tie that into our AI agents and start building a fraud detection system where you're not only looking at this piece of it, but you're looking at other documents that were submitted for that insurance claim. So you can look at the bill that was sent in from the mechanic. So you can have the mechanic submitting a bill for a damaged front bumper, a damaged driver door, things like that. But then after you've processed the other documents, you can see that they're actually charging for more than what is actually wrong with the vehicle. So you can mark that as fraud or mark it as needs additional review. So it's not just one piece that we're providing with knowledge enrichment. We're enabling other features, we're enabling larger solutions. So knowledge enrichment is that foundational keystone piece that builds out these other solutions. Questions, comments?
I'm just curious a little bit about how this is configured. I know we've done similar examples with Amazon's recognition service detecting people, shirts. I know Rob Wilds has built a demo doing that kind of stuff. Is it just an exercise similar to knowledge discovery of setting things up, or I see you sent the GitHub, so
So it is APIs. So
Okay.
everything is API based. We just got the documentation completed, so everything is available now. So you can take a look at that, see how it actually functions together and like all of that.
Awesome.
I'm sure there will be comments around the documentation, which we want. Like we want feedback on this. Like if what we're providing is not enough for you to get started, where you already kind of know what the product is, then we're not doing a good job with the documentation. So we want that feedback.
Awesome.
Can I say something? I've just read today the documentation of knowledge enrichment. I think that there is a Confluence page very, very clear and interesting about this, where we can find all the structure of the service called from knowledge enrichment. I put it in the chat if you want to summarize that in the documentation, maybe it could be useful.
So which piece of this are you referring to? Like the steps in the pipeline?
Yes, the diagram is very is very clear to me.
Yes. So we can't put that in the documentation because that
Yeah.
is the documentation is external. And this is like the inner workings of this. Now, however, we are looking into making data curation, which is what that diagram covers, open source. So once we do that, then we'll be able to publish something that actually shows those individual steps.
Great. And it will be on premise, correct?
So at the moment, everything is hosted by Highland and AWS. So it is a SaaS service. Oh, not a SaaS service, SaaS.
As far as getting our hands on it, is there any specific subscription or anything like that that's needed?
Yes, so I am trying to figure out what internally you need to be able to do that. We have the documentation for how a customer does it. So it is actually in that documentation link that I sent. There is a walkthrough on what you would need to enable. So there is so like you need a service account, you need to create a service account, and then we list the services that you would need to enable for that service account. So if that is not in the documentation, well, we didn't write documentation well. But that should be there.
Yeah. I can confirm.
So that was the overview I wanted to give. I can go into a bit of other things, or you can ask me questions.
I have a question, Nabi. So I'm trying to wrap my head around how customers can use this API as of now, right? So how do you guys expect this to be used? I mean, you mentioned it's only APIs. So do you want to make it, do you see customers using it through Automate or through their own applications? And I'm thinking we're selling a low code platform, but we are also saying, okay, you got a bunch of APIs now that you can use. So how do we talk to customers about those two things? If that makes sense.
So right now, the primary case. So that's great transition. I'll talk about who our target buyer and users are. So the target buyer really is those decision makers. So like those CTOs, CIOs, CDOs, data officers. They're typically the buyers for something like this because this is a large commitment. But the target audience, so the people who are actually using it, the ones who need to actually believe that this is good for what they're doing, are typically those developers. So the people who are actually writing code. Because this is integrated with REST APIs. So that is the first case that we're looking at. People who are actually building solutions, so they're writing the code to build those solutions. So partners are actually our primary focus right now because they typically build those solutions for their customers. And current Highland customers, not many of them are able to do that. There are some, absolutely there are some. There are more partners who are able to do that though. So that's primarily who we're talking with. Now that's not to say that we're not looking at those customers. We are. Like we're looking at both. It's just we're having more luck with the partners. So it is to build a solution with the APIs. Now you talked about having it through Automate. We are going down that route, but we're not there yet. So what we're going to be doing is having a tool in Automate that can be used in Automate or be used with the AI agents. So that will be available, but it's not there yet. And that's not the primary case that we are targeting at the moment.
Good, thank you. If I may, so I have another question around this. It's more like a wish list, if that makes sense. So when I was trying, some time ago, knowledge discovery, and that has been maybe a month ago, so it may have evolved since then. But one thing that I saw was that I never knew what the contents that had actually been ingested and made it to embeddings was, right? And I think knowledge enrichment would make some contents that would not be normally transformed into embeddings. It would enrich that part of knowledge discovery, right? So in my view, that would be a nice thing to work with knowledge discovery instead of an API itself, if that makes sense.
So from understanding, you're saying integrate knowledge enrichment with knowledge discovery.
Yeah. So
yes, that's in the works.
Okay, cool. So,
So,
that is what I was going to ask, if that is in the pipeline or not.
Yes, that should, I can't put a date on it, but it
Okay.
should be relatively soon when knowledge enrichment will be available with knowledge discovery. So actually this addresses one of Mirko's questions. Knowledge discovery currently only supports PDFs. We're going to be swapping that with their current pipeline with the data curation piece of knowledge enrichment to enable basically any file format. And that is actually in progress as we speak.
Cool. Thank you.
Nabi, you had mentioned there being a significant price tag associated with this. With the pre-existing state of doc filters and the ability for people to, once they have a license, pull down the necessary DLLs and things like that in order to run it locally, what's the primary value proposition of having this exposed as an API where they're paying, I assume, higher cost because we're hosting the services to run it by contrast to the pre-existing purchasing method?
It's very different than document filters. So document filters it's that SDK where you need to build out everything for it. So like you're picking and choosing what features of document filters you want for your specific use case. And it's not only text extraction either. It does renditions, it does transformations, it does identification, it does all of that. And you're building your solution from the ground up. Knowledge enrichment is part of that. It does that text extraction, but then it also has other features as well. So it's not for those customers that need everything on-prem. Now we're going down that route, but we're not there yet. So it's for those customers that want a solution that is SaaS-based, that it is cloud. But also it's enabling other features that doc filters doesn't have. So it does OCRing a lot better than what doc filters does. And then also has audio video transcripts. And then that's only the data curation piece. There's also the chunking. So we're doing chunking, we're doing embeddings. And then the context enrichment piece is doing that metadata generation. It's doing that text summarization. It's doing that contextualization. So it's adding a lot more features than what document filters just comes out of the box with.
Thank you.
I've seen, Nabi, from this diagram that data curation is composed by many services, by many steps. Is correct. Can I call these services from outside individually? If I need only one, for example, the duplication service.
Yeah, so what we are doing with that is we're not saying you get everything with data curation. you can choose which option you actually want when you pass your document through it. So if you want deduplication, then that's the only processing we'll do. If you want chunking and deduplication, well, I don't know why you would want that, but you can do that too. If you want, it's basically we're enabling each step individually. So we have an option to turn on and off each step.
Okay, thank you. So for now, we don't have an environment where to test the knowledge enrichment, correct?
So it's not. I need to understand what HX requires for you to have the subscription to it. It's available, and if you have an environment, it should be there. You just need to be able to have a user. So my question for you is, for your environments, are you an admin or?
Yes.
Okay, so then you should be able to follow the instructions in the documentation to create that service user that has the permissions for it. Once you have that service user, you'll be able to generate the client ID and secret that you would use with your API. And then you just hit the endpoints.
Okay, in which environment? Staging, production?
Whichever environment you have.
Okay, perfect.
And if we don't, I'm just looking at this piece of it and I'm expecting there to be a data curation API subscription here. And this is just one of the environments we've got. And as an admin, I guess I would expect it to be within this, but it's not, right? So I guess how do we get that subscription? Is that just a Jira ticket, or is there something else that I'm missing within this to see that subscription within it? So I don't think any of our accounts that we have access to have that as a current subscription, at least not that I've seen.
Okay, so then that's the piece that I need to understand more of. How does HX give out these subscriptions?
Gotcha.
No, Don, maybe it's Nucleus Jira issue to be opened to provision that.
That's my thought, yeah.
Yeah, same. If I don't know if there's specific, what is it, app keys or something else they look for to deploy that.
So my suggestion, put in that Nucleus ticket and say that you need access to the data curation and the context enrichment subscriptions.
I could do that for all of our environments on the pre-sale side. Mirko, I may need some help on yours because I don't have access to yours.
Yeah.
So would you like me to go through anything specific or just what I was planning on? I'm open to either.
What's the OCR engine that it's using?
It is currently using AWS Textract just because we need to get something available quickly. That's also what IDP uses as well. We will be looking to investigate other options to see what makes the most sense to use.
Ours, island product, obviously.
All right, I'll go through some roadmap items then. So this is the current roadmap that we're looking for knowledge enrichment. It's could change slightly because we're looking to be SOC 2 compliant. That's not on here, but it is something that we need to complete by June 1st. So that could shift some of this work a bit. But also, we'll be SOC 2 compliant, which will help a lot. So what we're going to be looking to deliver for Q2 is we're looking to refine the current beta features that we have after we get some feedback from the beta users. And to go along with that, we're going to add in the text summarization and then custom model support. So the custom models, it allows customers to use whichever model they want. So right now we support models from AWS Bedrock. That's great. Doesn't work for everyone. So you can bring your own model, or you can use a model that's hosted somewhere. But we're also looking at being able to do fine tuning with that as well. So fine tuning isn't on the knowledge enrichment side, but it's from the ML platform side, but we would expose that through knowledge enrichment. So you'd be able to use whatever model you want, and you can fine tune it if you'd like. And then something not on here that we'll also be looking to do is PII detection. So we're looking at that for Q2 as well. It's going to be most likely on the data curation side, where we will detect the PII and we'll remove it. Now that's small piece around PII as a whole. That's the first piece we need to do. There's a lot more to it. So there's we'll be looking at later on anonymizing the PII. So you can still have that contextual information, but it won't actually be PII. And then that's just on the knowledge enrichment piece. Other sides like discovery will need to handle PII as well. So they'll need to redact things from the front end. That is not covered with what we are doing with knowledge enrichment. Knowledge enrichment focuses on removing PII from being stored in the vector database, in the content lake. And then on here, you can see that we'll be looking at having a UI. Now that UI is still a concept. We're trying to understand what that should provide. The current thought is that it focuses on basically being able to run knowledge enrichment as a process where you can configure what metadata you want to generate, how often you want to do it, basically so you can run it as a batch process on the back end automatically. That's the current thought. And being able to do a bit of that verification, like a little bit of that human in the loop. But we're trying to figure out where that line kind of crosses with the IDP, because we don't want to do what IDP is doing. But we still need to be able to provide that confidence and actually show users that this is how confident we are that this metadata is correct. And then later on this year, I don't know how close we are to this, but we want to have these listed on third-party marketplaces. So like those AWS, like Azure, GCP. I don't think that's going to meet this year, but that is one of our targets. So we want to be able to have these available where others can just go there. So we get that marketability in that area, so they can just process it through there. And I already talked a little bit about the open source. We'll be looking to open source data curation. That was actually a big topic that we had a workshop earlier today. That was a big focus about that, how we're able to enable that. So that is something that we'll be looking to do. We'll be looking to not only open source data curation, but actually create open source integrations with other popular frameworks and products in the AI space, like that LangChain, like Llama Index. So we'll be looking to create integrations for that to make it even easier for people to adopt our tech. So how does this sound?
Hey, Nabi, just curious. In your upper right hand corner there has one of your initial customers is UCSD. Do you know what that use case is there?
Yes, so that actually is outdated, but UCSD is the one there that we are still talking to. So UCSD is actually building their own RAG system. I think it's called Triton GPT. So what they are looking to do with knowledge enrichment is that data curation piece. So they have all these documents in their repositories. I think it's OnBase, and they want to be able to extract the data from those documents and structure it for Triton GPT.
Okay. And they're doing that themselves. They're not using a partner or anything to implement that. They're doing it themselves.
Correct.
I would
Yes.
assume so because they're smarter than the average bear. So yeah, I would assume so. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so their Triton GPT, they actually make it available to other universities as well. So they develop it and then they make that available. So if this moves forward with them, yes, UCSD will be who we are working with, but at that point, they're kind of like a partner.
Okay, thanks.
So anything else around the roadmap? Otherwise, I was going to dive into the questions that Mirko sent over. Okay, so let's go through these one by one because they are all very relevant and important to basically everyone. So the first one, that diagram that the Confluence page that Mirko sent over shows those individual steps about what data curation is actually doing. So you can see that there. Basically, we're using our document filters along with AWS services to do the processing, things like that. So like we're identifying what type of file it is, and then that's choosing, are we going down the doc filters route to extract content that way, or do we need to OCR this and then process it that way? After we extract the content, we chunk it, we create embeddings. Oh, we also do a little bit of normalization. So we normalize quotes, so they're all the same type of quote. We normalize dashes, so they're all the same type of dashes. The reason we do that is because it works better with AIs, with LLMs. And then examples. So in the documentation, there is actually a sample in there showing how you can use data curation. We're looking to build out a similar sample for context as well. So knowledge enrichment does not integrate with knowledge discovery yet, but as we discussed, it's coming soon. The way that so there are beta customers on Discovery that are actually using documents that were ingested through knowledge enrichment. The way that we've done that though is more ad hoc. So you are able, you're able to use the knowledge enrichment pipeline right now. And what we've done is we're processing the documents that they give us through that pipeline, and we're taking the markdown that we get and using that as a metadata field when we're ingesting the document in Discovery. So the document that's going into Discovery is still a PDF, but it has its markdown content as metadata. So that's actually been giving a lot of better results in Discovery right now. So yes, the knowledge enrichment services are individually callable. You don't need to use both data curation and context enrichment. You can use either one. Recommendation is to use the output from data curation with context enrichment for those text-based documents because you'll get better results that way. Because context will either need text or an image. To give it text, you need to process that. Better to use it to do it with data curation. So there are going to be dedicated panel connectors. That doesn't matter to knowledge enrichment though. Knowledge enrichment just focuses on ingesting the data. We don't go and get the data, where you need to feed the data into knowledge enrichment. So there will be the OnBase, the Perceptive, the Alfresco, Nuxio connectors. Those will all exist, as well as other connectors for like ShareBase, Confluence, all of those. Those will just make it easier to feed data into knowledge enrichment. So so Swagger, I don't believe we're using Swagger itself, but we do have the open API spec within the documentation that I previously linked. So you'll be able to use that. So there's actually a plugin we integrated into documentation where it provides like that similar functionality to Swagger, where you're able to just call the API directly from the page. Yeah, so you can use knowledge enrichment. I believe, as we said, you'll need to put in that Nucleus ticket to get that subscription added. And then for this last one, if you're text-based, it'll actually be a better result. If it's image-based, IDP, HIDP will be better at this moment. But it's also not simply about extracting that data. It is for IDP. For knowledge enrichment, though, is to actually be able to use that to enrich your data and build out that solution, whereas IDP is that ingestion solution already.
If both solutions are using TextRact as the OCR engine, why is IDP more effective at doing image-based text layer creation?
They're doing some more processing to actually overlay positional data onto the document when they process it. So they're doing more to it. So they're not just OCRing, they're doing a lot more work.
Cool, thank you.
So my question for you, what more do you need? Like, how can I help get the information to you? And what information is that?
For now, I'm okay. I'll have a look to the documentation again for the test on the environment. So it's clear for me.
So I just sent 2 links in the chat. One of them is to HighSpot, where we have some new content up there. So I wrote an article around knowledge enrichment. So take a look at that. That should be available. And it is external as well, so it will be published soon, I believe. And then the overview, the new content intelligence overview deck should be there as well. That is also available externally, so that's free to share. And then I also sent a link to a security document that I'm currently drafting for content intelligence, to answer some of those security questions that our customers will have. So take a look at that. Give any feedback that you have. Feel free to comment on the page.
Thank you for doing this, Nabi. I think from a lot of us, it's still kind of scratching the surface, figuring out how we're going to use this in demos. Some are definitely further along. So even just having these links to start to dive in, figure out what we need to gather, what docs we need to prep, what files we need to get our story set. This is a good, and also knowing you as a contact, Mirko as a contact, I think that's definitely beneficial to the call we had today.
So yeah, so I was at a conference earlier this week, past 3 days, and I was working with Paulina, so sales for content intelligence. And she's very new to this as well. She did not have that full grasp about what knowledge enrichment is. And after talking to her practically for 2 days straight is when she started to understand what it is and how it can be applied and all of that. And that was basically 2 full days. So I don't expect all of you to know everything knowledge enrichment yet. Like there's still a lot that we need to be able to provide better, that we need to be able to communicate better to all of you, so you know how this can be applied. So like when you reach those points where there's like a little gray area where you don't know how this can be applied or who we should be selling this to or anything like that, just talk to us. Like we're working on creating better content, creating a better communication plan about how we can provide this information in a better way to you all. And then you mentioned a demo. I can actually show you a live demo right now, if you are all interested.
Very much, please.
And this is the live demo audience, right?
All right. So this is that insurance claims demo that I referred to earlier. So this is a Nuxio instance that is populated with images of damaged vehicles. Now, this does not need to be in Nuxio, does not need to be images of vehicles. It's just an easy way to show what we're actually able to enable with knowledge enrichment. And then I'm going to show this in various steps. So I'll show like what each step is actually doing, but everything can be processed automatically and all as one step really. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually just upload an image of a damaged vehicle. I'm not going to give it any metadata, so it's all going to be blank. The first step is I will generate a description about this image. So we're able to see the make, the model, color, things about the damage, all of that. And this is using knowledge enrichment on the back end to just process this image. Description's great, but we want it to be more structured. So what we can also do is have it actually added as metadata into Nuxio. So we have the make, the model, the color, the year. That's just a little bit of information. So where the real value is being able to analyze more about this vehicle. So we have the condition of the car parts, we have the damage severity, the damage location. So all of that we were able to just process with knowledge enrichment, extract from this image and feed it right back into Nuxio so you can use it with the rest of your content. Any questions around that? Comments?
Can I ask a
So-
really dumb question? When it's doing its analytics, I've noticed that you're gathering certain information. Is that something that you configured? Or,
Yes,
okay, because I was going to say there's a lot more information in this picture than the focal point of the car. I watch a lot of murder mysteries, so there's a lot of surrounding area that may be valuable. And I just wanted to verify
Yes.
that you kind of
So-
configured what you wanted to focus on.
yes, exactly. So you're able to say what you actually want from the document, from the image. This is just how we set up this demo. Like these are the keywords, the metadata that we have configured in Nuxio. So that's what we're asking for right now. You can put in a field saying, are there other cars in the image? And then you can put like a yes, no response or whatever you're looking for really.
Are there any murder weapons identified? Okay, got it.
So
And
can
this
I-
is available now.
Okay. Can I ask a quick question? Sorry. So is this the pipeline that is in the Confluence page that Merkle sent on the chat?
No, so that pipeline is data curation. This is using context enrichment.
Okay. And so so this is a custom pipeline anyway, is that correct? Or is it just calling one API and it gives me all of this information? How does that work?
Yeah, so there's actually a diagram of context enrichment in the documentation. So these are the steps that you would follow for context enrichment specifically. The first is authentication, but then after that is you feed it your document and it tells you what you can do with that document. After that, so you get back the available actions, and then you're able to call the API with what actions you want to take.
Cool. And this is an application that the customer is going to have to implement on their side on their own. Is that correct?
Yes. So there's different ways to approach it. So the first is you usually give the customer an API and then they build out their solution. The other is there's a services engagement where we can build out that integration. But then what we're also going to be looking to do is provide this functionality through Automate and through AI agents, where you're building out that solution and you can just use that functionality that's already available to you in whatever you're building. But overall, not directly for knowledge enrichment. What my pitch has been is we need to provide the full solution for what a customer is looking for. So like if you want fraud detection, for example, we'll provide you that solution that does fraud detection. And then you'll just have those individual steps that you configure, whereas you can define what fraud actually means to you.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. So I was asking myself, what does it have, as a differentiator instead of just using the AWS services? I mean, if I'm going to have to orchestrate everything myself, why would I pay, this premium to have our services, which I hope they do anyway?
Yeah, so one of the pieces to that is we're going to be providing vertical specific cases. So vertical specific features. So when we're doing chunking, we're going to have a chunking strategy that is specific to each individual vertical. When we're doing embedding, we're going to use embeddings that are specific for each individual vertical. Things like that. So that's one piece.
So thank you.
So we have 3 minutes left. I did a lot of talking. Was this valuable?
It was to me, yeah, very much.
What more do you all need?
Assistance on an upcoming call with Konica Minolta discussing integration strategies for migrating data to Snowflake, where I assume they're probably doing so for the same type of reason.
I'm not really following.
Who would be the best resource for me to pull into a conversation with a partner that has a customer opportunity where they're needing to export large volumes of data to Snowflake, likely in support of an AI process where we could inject this conversation?
So you're looking for support on how to migrate large pieces of data?
Part of this pipeline is placing chunks data into Snowflake. Yeah.
Nope. So knowledge enrichment itself puts data where you tell it to put data. If you choose to use Snowflake, that's fine. You can use Snowflake. Internally, for our content lake, we're actually moving away from Snowflake. So we won't be using that. And I guess I just need to understand more about this specific case. Like, are we just assuming that they need to move the data into Snowflake, or are we?
No, that is the known. It's everything else that's in question at the moment as to why they're doing it and what they're using it for. But my preference would be if they're going to be taking large volumes of their data and shifting it out of their current system into Snowflake, that we still have a buy-in point to make money off of that transaction. So if they're doing it for the purpose of supporting an AI process, my thought was if they haven't fully vetted out the rest of their use case yet and decided what the processing they need to do in support of whatever AI tooling they're creating to likely wrap around this, that it could be a potential place to insert this conversation.
So understanding if using Snowflake is beneficial or not, I would talk with Tom Page. He is he's R&D over the content lake, and he was part of the discussions around us moving away from Snowflake.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, if there's nothing else, thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Nabi.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Nabi.
Nabi.
Thank
That was
you.
interesting.